Alright, welcome back everybody to another Culz Reviews episode. This week we are taking a slight detour from our Billy the Kid documentary and movie watching to watch a documentary on George Mallory and Sandy Irvin's fateful last climb of Mount Everest in 1924, where a lot of people think they were possibly the first people to get to the, at least the first Westerners to get to the top of Mount Everest. Alright, so as usual, my name is Keegan. Joining me today is Matt and Sam. So for those of you who don't know who George Mallory is, he was a big mountaineer. Obviously he had led 2 other expeditions to Everest and really helped route the first, I guess, path up to Mount Everest. I mean, he found the glacier, he found how to kind of an easier way to get up there coming from India. So kind of a back way. Obviously when it was eventually conquered, we'll say, by Sir Edmund Hillary in 1953, they actually went a different direction on the easier path. This is the harder of the paths, especially with the second step, which a lot of people said couldn't have been done by them. I don't know why. I mean, obviously it's super dangerous, it's super high, super icy, super slick. But as we saw with Alex Honnold on El Capitan, can be done. So, I mean, I guess that's been the big debate, is who made it first, Hillary or Mallory? Obviously the record books show, I mean, obviously Hillary made it to the top and down, survived. But, you know, this one does leave that question. There seems to be a lot of evidence that says Mallory could have been. I mean, I've read a ton of Mallory books. I've always kind of felt after reading it that Mallory did at least make it to the top.
Yeah.
So I guess that's kind of the gist. He had been going over and trying to figure out how to do this, and this was kind of really his last attempt, so he really gave it everything. What I thought was really cool was the parts with Conrad Anker, which, if you know anything about mountaineering, I'm sure you've seen him at some sort. Also recently in History's Greatest Mysteries on the History Channel. He was part of the Antarctica episode, which was really cool. But they actually went out and kind of tried to recreate the conditions as far as clothing. And then he actually attempted the second step without the ladder. It did look super dangerous at points.
Oh yeah.
Wasn't quite as heart beating and heart racing as Free Solo. That eventually we're gonna do a review on that on this channel, but that movie was the greatest horror movie of all time because I'm afraid of heights and that thing. Whew.
Yeah.
Especially in IMAX.
Yeah, there was a couple times we had to look away going, yep, nope, not even gonna watch.
Yeah. I mean, there was definitely some parts here where I definitely felt that anxiety, I guess, built up where I was just like, ooh, that is a long way down.
Absolutely.
And being in Colorado, another thing that is, I guess, fascinating to us is we go out, we see our Rocky Mountains out there. You know, we got a bunch of 14ers. I've climbed a couple of them. But to try to imagine a mountain that's more than double the height, just go out there and look and you're just like, wow, that is really tall. Cruising altitude of a 747 pretty much. Almost 30,000 feet. I mean, that is insane.
Yeah.
Just like, oh yeah. At some point, maybe we'll do a special Culz Paranormal episode on Mount Everest. Try to figure out this for once and for all. I mean, I really do think Mallory made it. Might just be me. But I've always been under that, like, feeling as far as, I mean, they were so close. They were 800 feet away. We now know they could at least climb the second step. He was super determined. And the one thing that was missing was his wife's picture that he promised to put up there. I mean, plus, where the body was found wasn't like he had fallen from the second step. It was like they went up and then they were on their way back down.
Yeah, you can slip just as easily going down as you can going up.
A lot of times it's easier to slip going down because your momentum's already going that way.
And you're pushing more weight
Yeah.
down, I guess, yeah, as opposed to pushing up off of it, you're coming down on it.
Because, like, if you're going up, you have stuff to grab on. If you're going down, you're kind of
You're
free,
counting on
like,
your footing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
as
going
opposed
like
to your
that.
breath.
Unless you're crab walking down.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll start off. What are some things you guys might have learned?
Oh, I learned a lot, actually. I mean, I've never really followed the Mallory thing, so this was new for me. So everything I was watching tonight was news to me. I knew many people had tried to climb Everest, and I knew there were bodies, everywhere going up, but just to learn a lot of the true ramifications and the temps and the winds and just the pure nastiness of Mother Nature on Everest was quite fascinating.
The guy puked up half his larynx.
Yeah.
Had to go back down, and then the other guy's fingers they looked like balls.
Yeah, they were massively swollen.
Yeah, and he did die. I think that guy did die, and you're just like, okay, this is extreme. Especially you get to the death zone, your body actually goes into the state that you are dying. And so now with our technology, it's a little bit easier. We got a little bit better oxygen. Yeah, it's still super dangerous. But you imagine it back in Mallory's time in 1924. You imagine they had to have been at least frostbitten somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's painful frostbitten and you're just walking here, but trying to go up a peak. Sam, anything that...
I learned a lot as well, but the one thing that kind of stuck out was Irvin's ability to kind of recreate the oxygen tank to make it lighter and more efficient for climbers. I found that very cool.
Yeah, it was fascinating to learn that he had specifically asked for them to bring in the oxygen, send it to him so he could modify it. And so that's really why Mallory picked him was, hey, this guy's really useful. He knows what he's talking about. He might not have climbed before, but he's a really great athlete. Obviously, he was part of the rowing team.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you can see why he picked him. And, this story is just crazy. Obviously, when I first watched this, when originally I first watched it probably got me on the kick of, learning more about Mallory, reading The Ghost of Everest or some of the other mountaineering books and biographies about Mallory. So it kind of got me down that rabbit hole. But I've always at least heard about Mallory at some sort, especially growing up climbing and stuff. You hear about it. My buddy was, at the time, I think the youngest person to climb Kilimanjaro when we were in elementary school. And then, like I said, I've done the 14ers here, and I think it would be super cool to climb Everest one day, or at least see it.
Yeah,
I might be getting
might
be getting a little too old at this point, but I think at some point to at least see it. We are friends with somebody, and when he visited my dad, he showed the picture of outside his house was just Everest, and I'm like, that would be so cool. Definitely something I want to do before it's too late, I guess we'll say.
Yeah.
Before we end this, though, I guess we'll wander off. You guys probably know if you watched this far, as far as my opinion, but I do think Mallory made it at least to the top. What about you guys? Do you guys think he made it to the top?
Yeah, I'm one of those prove me wrong type guys, so yeah, I'll go with he made it and they were on their way back down.
I would agree.
Yeah, and just for me, I think they were too close for him to give up and head back down. So I think he went for it, at least made it over the second step. And I feel like he would have made it to the top. A lot of people are like, then where's the picture? It probably would have faded and blown away. The winds get super strong. I'm sure it was gone instantly, but...
We're buried.
We're buried by snow, yeah. And then could have slid down further somewhere.
Or it's just still there, but heavily buried.
Yeah, and packed in by the ice up there. And I think this is the real thing. I think it was a Kodak camera, and they actually said if we were able to find it, we could still develop the film, especially because it's almost kind of preserved up there. And so if they were ever actually able to, find Irvin's body, Irvine's...
And had the camera.
Yeah.
Well, we saw it with Mallory's body. I was actually surprised that, that the body is almost 100 years old, and at the time of the video it was maybe 80,
75.
80 something, right?
Yeah, I think it was 75 years old.
But
Or
just to
99
see
maybe.
the shape that the body was still in, because it was frozen solid and not a lot of decay, and either animals eating the body too, because really no animal
Nothing's going
lives at that height. So it was kind of like not creepy, but you know, it just interesting in a way to see a body almost preserved perfectly all this time later.
Yeah, I mean, there's like the green boots and stuff. There's different bodies that are actually used now as, I guess, trail markers for routes. Because at that height, you can't do anything. I mean, helicopters can't get up there. It's so dangerous for one person. It's going to be hard to try to carry a body back down.
Yeah.
So they're just, it's like a cemetery in a way. And it was kind of a good explanation how they, you know, during the video when they were doing their recreation climb. And he was like, we first came around it, and it was like a war zone, because that's really the only other time you're walking around and just seeing bodies. And yeah, that would be kind of a creepy feeling, I guess, because you're like, what am I doing? Look at all these. But we are now to the point where we are going to, I guess, rate, recommend it, and let you guys know. Should you watch it? Should you pass? Matt, I know you didn't recommend our last one. How does this one go?
Well, this one, by far and above the last one. I don't know, this one was quite interesting. We learned a lot. I'm going to give it up there about, you know, an 8. Very educational, learned a lot. And yeah, absolutely recommend it. If you want any kind of like rundown on Mallory or just Everest itself too. A lot of neat shots of the building or not building, the mountain, and
I'll do a 9 out of 10. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, and for me, I'm trying to think. I'd probably like say like a 9.3 out of 10. It's definitely higher than the 9.0s I've rated, but I don't think it would quite reach the JFK or like the Free Solo level. But it's definitely up there. I mean, it's really fascinating. I highly recommend it, especially if you guys don't know the story of George Mallory. If you only know about Sir Edmund Hillary, go check this out. It's definitely worth the watch, especially because we're releasing it at the time of his possible death. Obviously, they don't know quite the date, June 8th, June 9th. But yeah, we thought it would be a cool little tribute to him and Irvine, you know, and the possibility that they made it to the top. But if you want to see more Culz reviews like we did last week with the Cowboys and Outlaws, the real Billy the Kid, check out that link in front of Matt's face. If you want to see more of what we do here at Culz Paranormal, including some of our Billy the Kid book reviews, so you can learn some more history about Billy the Kid, click that link over to Sam. And don't forget to hit that like and give us a
subscribe.
And let us know in the comments below, who do you think made it to the top first? Hillary or Mallory?